Hey, welcome to another episode of Youth Ministry Health, the podcast. My name is Mike Sheely. I'm the host, and I'm here to talk to you today about calendars. Not just any calendars, but continuous calendars. Let me start by saying that all of us have to use calendars in some form or fashion, whether you have a giant wall calendar in your office, or you have that family calendar in the dining room where you keep track of everybody's schedules, or you have all the digital calendars on your phone and laptop and tablet. We use calendars to keep track of important dates and information, reminders. But I have found in ministry that all those calendars cannot be a great fit for the tool I need to do. It's like having a toolbox full of tools, but you just don't have the right size. I'm not a mechanic, so maybe, but you just don't have the right size wrench, or you have a Phillips screwdriver, you need a flathead. So all these options are just too much. Let me tell you what some of the challenges are about traditional calendars when it comes to youth ministry, and then I'll tell you about a solution I've come up with that might be able to help you out today. One of the problems with traditional calendars is they're set up to be viewed 1 month at a time. So you look at January 1st through 31st. Then you can see February 1st through 28th or 29th on leap year. All the time, that's great for looking at a month at a time when it's the beginning of the month. But when it's towards the middle or end of the month, you might be thinking, oh, that's not till next month. But actually, it's like a week and a half away or a few days away. So it can become deceptive where you look at a calendar and think, gosh, I've got so much time before this thing comes, when actually you don't. Or because you don't see it, it doesn't jog your memory. And like a reminder is great, but looking at a calendar and at a glance, being able to visually see a lot of information that you can't do when you only can see a month at a time. One of the problems I run into is how calendars are set up by default. And maybe this is specific to the United States and to the calendars I've grabbed, but both digital and print, most of the ones I run into are set up Sunday through Saturday. And that's frustrating because even if you have a midweek program on Wednesday, most of our week in ministry is gearing up for Sunday. Everything leads up to Sunday, and then we reset. Whether you have a Thursday service, a Friday service, a Wednesday service, a Saturday service, Sunday's kind of the big one of the week, and then it all resets after that, normally. So for me, a Sunday to Saturday calendar is frustrating because it always starts on a Sunday. And again, it's visual. I'm looking across the Saturday. Okay, next line is Sunday. Oh, but that's this weekend. Oh, gosh, that looks different. Or we plan a trip or a retreat and it goes Friday through Sunday, and those are on two different lines in the calendar. Maybe it's me, but that's a problem I run into. Another thing with traditional calendars is that the software or the publisher knows what's best, or they think they do. So the things you want to customize and change and challenge, it's rigid. There's not a lot of flexibility. You can't do it your way. You have to do it their way. And they don't all agree. So the features on one calendar are not available on the other, and it becomes very frustrating. And this is true with a lot of stuff by companies like Microsoft, but when you get a calendar, there are so many extras. You've got reminders, you've got alerts, you've got links, you can add people, and those are great if you're using that in your business. But when I'm talking about using a calendar for youth ministry, I'm thinking about big picture planning, looking at the whole year, getting big things down. I'm not looking for a calendar to help me set up appointments and reminders with my volunteers and parents and students. I have digital tools for that. I'm looking for a calendar that helps me plan out and go, okay, when is camp? When's our mission trip? How often do small groups meet? Hey, when does a school have their big musical and plays? When's the next big holiday? How many of our schools have the same spring break and fall break? That's the kind of tools I'm looking for. And if you put all of that into the calendar you use for your day-to-day work, it becomes bloated with way too much information. And then it's just not fun. Now, I don't know a lot about Enneagram, but I know that I'm a 7. And I know that I like things to be fun. And I like to be creative and visual. And a lot of calendars are not set up that way. Like you can change the color of the calendar, but when you look at the calendar, it just is different colored words, all on a big white background or black background. It's not a lot of flexibility. You can't add your own images if you want to. You can't change backgrounds. There's no options for icons or for visuals. It's really stuck in this is what you need to do, numbers and letters, keep it in a square, let's go. And most calendars set up for a certain amount of information to show up, and then it will say more. Or on a print calendar, you just run out after that square. I needed more flexibility to my calendar than what the traditional ones were offering. So, through a book I was reading and a website it led me to, and a little experimentation of my own, I came up with what I call continuous calendars. So, it all started when I was reading a book by John Acuff called Finish. I like to daydream and brainstorm, and I will work with you and do that all day long. But when it comes to taking those ideas and making them actionable, that's my weakness. And so I wanted to read John Acuff's book, Finish, on how to finish some of these goals. And it was really helpful. But along the way, I discovered a calendar system that he recommended that blew my mind because even though it didn't fix all my problems, it really checked a lot of boxes. And I'll just tell you, I don't have to recreate the same thing. If you want to get one yourself, you can go to New Year, that's NEUYEAR.net, and you can look at all these different calendars. You can get Sunday through Saturday if that's what you really like. But if you want Monday through Sunday, they've got Monday through Sunday. These big wall calendars they have. We have two of them that hang in our office, and they're each about 6 months long, and they're continuous calendars. They don't break at the end of the month. They keep going based on the days of the week. And they just give you a little note. Hey, this is where September starts. This is where October starts. We have those hanging in our office and they're the dry erase kind. We can use them for big picture planning. And that's a great start. One of the cool things about it is when 6 months is done, we swap it out with another 6 month calendar. So we're always able to look ahead. We buy them in batches of 12 months. And so we've got two of them we're kind of working on to the side, but hanging on our wall in front of us are always 6 to 12 months at a glance, and then we're swapping out for the new one. That's great in our office, but it's not portable. I'm not rolling that thing up and taking it to meetings with me. It's just too big. So it's a great analog solution for the calendar I was looking for, but I still wanted a digital solution. I still want to be able to sit in a meeting, and when someone says, okay, maybe it's July, and someone says, let's talk about Christmas for a minute. Holy cow, that's December. I can look in my general calendar I use for work and see when December 25th falls this year. But I want to look and at a glance be able to see, okay, what do I know about basketball schedules? What do I know about winter breaks? What do I know about things my family has planned? What's going on in our community? What's going on in our church? Like, there's a lot of information I want to be able to see at a glance. And it's not going to be with me in that meeting when I didn't even know it was going to be coming up. I need a digital solution. After trying a lot of free demos of software, both for the iPad and for my MacBook, none of them came up with what I was looking for. I kept running into all the same problems. I decided to make my own. I mean, a calendar is a spreadsheet, it's some cells with dates in it, which are numbers, and then text. But if you use Apple numbers, now you can fill in the cells with colors or images. You can add custom shapes. You have all kinds of flexibility. And because it's in Apple numbers, anybody else who uses Apple numbers can now be a collaborative user of that same document with you. So now you can even share it. And it becomes not only digital and flexible, but portable. I know what a lot of you are thinking. Mike, that's great. We use Microsoft. So does my office when I have to. So, to be a good team player, I've also exported my Apple Numbers document where I created everything into Excel. From what I've tested it so far, it works pretty good. It doesn't allow me to put as many things together the same way I did in Apple Numbers, but it gives you the same flexibility of that continuous, never ending, infinitely scrolling spreadsheet to give you a great big run on calendar. And if you want the simplest done for you version, I also exported it as a PDF. You can't change the cells or colors or labels, but it gives you a continuous calendar you can play with. And then, if you like the Excel or numbers versions, you can always edit your own and export that as a PDF to carry it with you and use any kind of a PDF editor preview on iPads or your computer, to Adobe Acrobat, to be able to go in there and mark it up, annotate it, and have a quick reference tool for you for your meetings. Let me tell you a little bit about this document that I made in Apple's numbers and how I set it up to solve some of the problems I have. One of the first things I did was built the calendar Monday through Sunday. So now when I look at the calendar, I'm starting off on Monday, which usually is Monday morning. After I come into the office, it's our staff prayer meeting and going over some business of the week, and we're getting things started. After that, we're running all the way up to Sunday. So my calendar goes Monday through Sunday. And it's continuous. It flows from week to week to week. There's bold color blocks that tell you, okay, November is starting here, December is starting here. But overall, when you look at it, you're seeing all these weeks, and it just scrolls down from the beginning of the first month all the way to the end of the last one. So you can constantly scroll and see, and as you zoom in and zoom out, you can see as much of the big picture as you want. I love this. When I want to look at the entire summer at once and get a feel for all the different camps and trips our church has going on, I can look at the whole summer. When I want to zoom in and see when do all the main graduations happen for local high schools, I can zoom into the end of May, beginning of June in just a 3-week window and see most of these commencement ceremonies. When I want to look at how does Christmas fall this year or how many schools fall breaks connect together, I can zoom in and zoom out to see as much as I want to. It's so flexible. And I designed it to work best in our context, but I know that not everybody has the same school calendar or ministry calendar. So I've designed it in a few different formats so that you can get whatever you need that works best for you, or use mine as an inspiration to make your own. Our church has what we call Promotion Weekend, the very first weekend of June. After Memorial Day, that next weekend, everybody moves up and they start going to ministries and programs based on what grade they'll be in when school starts in the fall. We did this because it lines up with all of our summer camps and conferences. They're all based on what grade you're going into. And so now when June hits, the rest of the summer, everyone's a part of what they're doing. And because of how our school calendar changed a few years ago, all of our camps and conferences for third grade all the way through high school hit in June. So right away, kids are in that. So the calendar I set up starts June 1st and wraps all the way around to May of the next year, June 1st through May 31st. A continual scroll all the way down to the end. Some of you are more traditional, even with a tool like this. So I also put together one that's very simply January 1st, scroll down through December 31st. And if you're like us, school starts in August. So for teachers or people who want their calendar to start in August, which some of you, that's when your kids promote in your church, I made a format that starts August 1st and goes through July 31st. I thought I was done. And then someone said, hey, our schools start after Labor Day. So can you make me a September to August? So that's the last customization I did. I also did a digital one that starts September 1st and goes all the way down to August 31st. I've set up my calendars, that Apple Numbers file, with a color coding system. Now, if you get a copy of this file, you can go in and change the titles to whatever you want, and you can customize the colors to whatever RGB, hex code, whatever you like. You can make it that way. You can make it gradients, you can go crazy. But the color coding helps you at a glance to see things. For example, I know that the school, one of our schools, their main colors are red. At a glance, I can see when their winter break is. I can see when they're going to have commencement just as seeing the color. And I can see how that compares to the other school whose main color is blue by looking at the blue color coded things. Stuff that's personal to me, it's my family or just for me in general, I want to know that's going to pop out. So I made that a neon green. So at a glance, I can see where is my kids' birthdays compared to events that are going on. Where is my anniversary? Where is some time off that I'm taking? Is there enough bright green where I've taken time off? I can also see things that apply to our church, big picture, so I know that we're not bumping up into that or we're keeping that in mind. Things in the community, holidays that we can't change and have no control over. All that stuff I can see by, and I glance at it, and the more you use it, the more you'll remember what is what based on the colors. And like I said, you can customize it as crazy as you want. I would encourage you to set a timer because you can really waste a lot of time. And that would be sadly ironic, wasting time editing your calendar. After using this for a few years, I began to realize that I was filling up squares in much the same way I've been doing with traditional calendars. Because I wanted to see, like, when do all the schools' fall break happen? When does school's first day of school start happen for different school districts? And if you're like me, you have several different schools and school districts that your kids come from in your church. And so it's nice to be able to look at them and kind of see when does everything happen. For example, I know a friend of mine who had an event that happened on President's Weekend. And so he had the event start Sunday night, and then the kids came back and it went all day on Monday. Well, I know from looking at my calendar that I've got two school districts that for some reason didn't take President's Day off. So kids were in school. I would have eliminated the possibility of students being able to participate if I hadn't factored in that into the schedule. My friend of mine, none of the kids in schools that are around his church had that day as a day of school, so he was fine. But that's where this helps out. So in a normal calendar, if you have a lot of things on a square, it'll bump up at the end and say, and three more events or and seven more events. I needed for certain times of the year to have a lot more rows than others. For example, in the end of July, beginning of August, when most of our schools are starting around here, I needed extra rows, one for each school, to show when those schools start. That way, if three or four or five of them happen on the same day, they'd all have their own line. I could get a glance, kind of see when they're clustering, when they're starting. That really comes in handy when we have fall break, Thanksgiving break, winter break, and spring break. You have multiple days and sometimes 2 weeks for those breaks where people are out of school. I was planning a mission trip and I needed to see when will the kids have the greatest chance of going? When will there be the most concentric circles of overlap for fall breaks? Well, with this calendar, I was able to add all the rows I wanted in October when we have fall break. I was able to see by zooming out where all the schools overlapped for 1 week. Some went a little before, some went a little after, but that was a sweet spot. If we're going to offer something for families, that's the place. Maybe you want to use this calendar and you've got a family of five, six, or seven, and you want to have a row for every kid in there. You can do that. Maybe you are working with some kind of a school schedule and you want to put different teams down or different grades down. You just add a row or take away rows to make it as big or as small as you want. And like I said, not every week of every month has all those rows. A lot of times, a normal week of school and on the calendar for our church just has a few rows to it. But when I want to show more information about breaks, when I want to show more information that represents different groups, I just add more rows and the calendar expands. Remember, it's infinitely scrollable vertically, so you can make them as many rows as you want. Now, at some point, you're not going to be able to see them all on the screen. But when you add those on there, you can add as many or as few as you want and see what's going on. Another way this could be really helpful, and I know it will only apply to some of you, but some of you might really appreciate this. If you work at a church that has more than one campus, our church has three campuses and it has three impact centers or mission sites. Well, so for me, if I want to look at stuff from my church, I would want to add all six of those so I could at a glance see what was going on. That's a great way to use this tool. You can even have a separate tab that's just the campuses of your churches and what's going on there to keep track of that information at a glance. A great tool, especially if you're somebody who's in central support and your job is to kind of stay in touch with all these different campuses. Maybe you work at a college and you've got multiple campuses. Maybe you want a tool that's off the grid, it's not the official school calendar, that kind of helps you keep track of what's going on. This is a great way to do that. Okay, so I've described the calendars to you. There'll be a link at the end here where you can go to mikesheely.com. It's the main website I'm using right now for both my personal stuff and for youth ministry help. But I have a store on there, and you can go on and purchase these calendars. They've got a whole bunch of varieties. You're going to go in there and pick. They're all going to be Monday through Sunday. So if you don't like that, you can customize it and change it. But I have set these up where you can get whatever format you want. January through December, June through May, August through July, or September through August. Each of those includes Apple Numbers, Microsoft Excel, and a PDF. So you get all three of those formats. Now, let's say you've got the calendar file, you're ready to dive in. What order do you fill the calendar in? What order do you populate stuff on your calendar? I have a formula, and if I mean walk you through it here, it should save you some headache and heartache and help you really be more organized and have some fun along the way. Like most calendars, the first thing you should do is go look and fill in holidays. On the calendar, I sometimes have left those out because of things changing and what's important to you. There are local holidays, but grab a print calendar or just go online and look at the major holidays that are happening for the year and put them on your calendar. You can't change them, but they do affect you. And so make sure those are on your calendar. Also, like the unusual big dates, like are the Olympics going on this year? Do you have the country's 250th anniversary happening this year? Is there a special event happening in your community or your state? Make sure you keep those things on there as big deals that happen even though they don't happen every year, you can't change them. They're locked into a specific date. Put them on your calendar. I would also say come back to this at the very end. You can go to a bunch of different websites and find a ton of fun holidays that happen every day of the year, and you can add those to your calendar just for fun. But for right now, stick with the biggies that are usually a cause to have work off or school off that are big remembrances. Number two here, personal family dates. If you're married, if you've got kids, sit down with your wife, your husband, sit down with your kids, and add your family dates to the calendar. Birthdays, anniversaries. I'm not saying you won't remember them, but when you're in a meeting talking about things, you can get caught up and look at your calendar. And if it's not on your calendar, it won't be in your head in that moment. Maybe it will for you, and you're better than me. Congratulations. That's awesome, but I want to make sure I don't forget about really important family dates. So I put those on the calendar. Maybe you go ahead and tentatively plan a family vacation. Maybe you've got things that you know you're going to be doing as a family over the course of the next year. I've got some friends that at the time of me filming this video, a bunch of them have had a newborn baby over the last few months. Those due dates should go on a calendar so you know that's going to be kind of a crazy time when you're going to be in and out of things for a while. So think about what are big important family dates. And if you're married, let your spouse look at this calendar and let them add dates to make sure you haven't forgotten anything. Once that's all set, now we go to number three. Number three is your church. Now, you can use this tool for a lot of different things, but I really designed it to help people in youth ministry. And so in youth ministry, sometimes we can forget that we're part of a much bigger church. So add some big church dates down. For instance, what is your church's plans for Easter and for Christmas? Do you have Christmas Eve services? Does your church have any kind of an annual giving campaign or celebration that's going to be coming up? Are there big dates that you know, hey, this is going to be an all in? We've got a lot going on in our church for this thing. Then look more granular as far as church staff goes. Are there training dates coming up? Is there a conference you're going to? Is there something you're going to do with the student team or the next gen team? Maybe you're at a small church and your whole staff gets together and goes on a retreat together. Make sure those dates are on your calendar. Those are a big deal. You might even ask your supervisor, hey, what dates do I need to make sure on my calendar? Our church staff has a list of like these are the big deals. If you're going to be gone one of these dates, make sure you check ahead of time because we expect everybody to be there to get the most out of this. Make sure those are on your calendar. Check those things out. And at this point, if you notice conflicts between your church dates and your personal dates, you got to have some conversations with people to decide what goes on there, what can be moved and what can't. Then community. Does your town have a festival? Is there a community 4-H fair in your county that you need to put on your calendar because you got students that are going to be a part of that? Is your a big celebration for 4th of July or Memorial Day? I'm in central Indiana, so I have to have race weekend for the Indy 500 on my calendar. When I was in Kentucky, I had to have the Kentucky Derby on my calendar and the whole run up to the Derby celebration. I know places that different seasons, whether it's baseball or basketball or soccer, there's a big deal in your community around those things. What is it for your community you need to have on your calendar? Check and make sure those dates are on there. Doing this might also help your ministry. Maybe you had no idea your town had this like fair and festival, and you can go and set up a booth and promote your ministry at this local thing. What a cool way to get in the community, but also get the word out because you check the calendar. Then the part that drives us crazy, school calendars. Most schools plan at least a year out. Not all the details, not even all the athletic schedules, but when does school start? When does it end? When is graduation? When is the fall break, winter break, spring break? Those kind of things should be on your school's calendar at least a year out. So download those calendars. They're usually available as a PDF from the website, and then go through and put those key dates in your calendar. Like I said, with the way I've designed this calendar in Apple Numbers, and even if you use Microsoft Excel, you just keep adding rows when you need to add a lot of school information. And then you just leave it alone when there's not. Sometimes it'll be you have to add one school. We had one school that started a week earlier than everybody else. So I had to add an extra row in that week. And then there were times where there wasn't anything going on with the schools. I didn't have to add any extra weeks. But make sure you get all the key, most important dates for your school districts down so you don't make any assumptions and plan something that excludes students because you didn't realize they were going to be in school that day. And then finally, last of all, add your ministry. And here's why. Now, all the really big dates, most of the dates that we have no control over, are on this planning calendar. Now we can schedule our activities. I didn't pick my mission trip that we want families to go on with students who are in middle school until I saw where did things overlap. Well, I saw that over winter break, there's a lot going on with Christmas and families. That's not a great time. Then I saw over spring break that our high school group was going to have their mission trip. Well, I didn't want to overlap or compete with that. So we started to look around. Summer is busy with camps and conferences, but then fall break, there wasn't anything there. And for once, most of our schools had at least 1 week out of two that they overlapped. So all of my students would have the potential to be able to go on this mission trip. So we planned it for that week of fall break. When we look at our calendar and decide when are we going to start and stop things, we'll look at what's going on in our calendar for our community, for our church. Is there an important time for us to talk about a topic because it's going to be preached in the preaching calendar? When we schedule changes to our weekend service or our midweek program, we keep in mind what else is going on in our community. Having all this information having all this information available is so helpful. I won't overlap and schedule something on my anniversary because it's there on the planning calendar. I also won't forget our big community outreach that our church does because it's there on my calendar. You're going to have a lot more than just youth ministry dates in there. But remember, this calendar is for big picture planning. You can return to it, you can have it with you. I use it periodically, but I spend most of my time setting it up and then evaluating it and getting it ready for the next year. But then I always have it with me. I can pull out my iPad, I can pull out my MacBook, even my phone, although that's probably the worst experience for almost any app because it's so small. But I can look at those screens and at a glance, I can look at things and go, hey, this would be a good date. Or, hey, have we thought about this? There's been a number of times in a meeting I say, hey, did we think about this? Because I had this master calendar there. This continuous calendar tool was designed to help me with my youth ministry, to help me so I wouldn't miss overlapping dates, so I wouldn't miss things that happened at the beginning of the month when I haven't seen them because we're on the previous month's calendar. I'd be able to see as much or as little detail as I wanted based on what was going on. And now I'm making this tool available to you. You can take this tool that I've described and you can customize it and build it your own. And that's totally cool. But if you want to go to my store and check out the link we have, you can go and buy one of these pre-formatted calendars. And each year I'll do the work to go through and update it so that it's current for each year. And actually, if you go on there now, you should be able to get one that you can use. It's the current calendar, whichever format you like, and the next year's format. My goal is to always have 2 years on there so you can grab the next year and the next year. And if you want to buy one and you want to do the work to go in and customize it, you're more than welcome to. There's nothing that blocks you from doing that. But if you're like, you know what, I like just starting with it already set up and I can copy and paste and fill in the blanks, then the small fee that we have for it, that helps me to be able to put in the work because this is separate from what I do for my church. And this will help you out with your ministry or your school or your family or your college or your team. However you choose to use this, it has way more uses than just youth ministry. That's just where it got started and who I was trying to help by sharing this tool to start with. And in case you missed it, in youth ministry, you should be using a calendar. There is a time and a place for some flexibility and spontaneity, but that shouldn't be your default mode. If you want parents to know things ahead of time, if you want students to come to your event, if you want people to participate in small groups, if you want families to sign up for your small service project or mission trip, you've got to get a calendar together and use it well. Like I said, customize yours to what works best for you, or buy one of mine and customize that to be a best fit for you. Thanks for watching. May God bless you as you help students get to know and follow Jesus. And remember, you're not doing this alone. We're here to help.